that the sports is very wide. Of course, we have quite many. There is football, there is swimming, basketball, and of course, despite the many of these sporting activities that we have in the country, there is limited infrastructure to harbour these activities. So, government really urged to invest more, and of course, there are absolute plans to do that. But we also see that the private sector might be really needed to be a part of this particular aspect, but the government being the leader regarding the improvement of the sports infrastructure in the country. Let's review this real quick. I'll be right back with more highlights.
I want to thank the sportsmen and women and our children who have been doing good work to represent our country internationally. They are doing a commendable job. And of course, I also want to thank the Minister of Education and Sports, Mama, the First Lady, and actually the President for guiding us on the, first of all, looking at the strategic and our core sports. On the issues which we need to put more emphasis on infrastructure, when I talk about infrastructure, I talk about the stadiums. In the stadiums, as Minister of Education and Sports, through National Council of Sports, I intend to have a meeting with all sports officers next week. We want to come up with the architectural plans for all the infrastructure, which must be the same depending on the amount of acreage of land you have in your respective districts. And then we look at the regions or sub-regions. For instance, there are 18 zones of the country. We want at least to plan to have a facility in each and every 18 zones of the country. Then now we look at the cities. We need to plan what kind of infrastructure do we need to put for sports in the city. So this is an area where I am calling upon for support, both the private sector to come in to help government in terms of sports development in this country. What I'm talking about is happening in other countries. In Uganda here, focus on the government. And we must also appreciate that we do not have enough resources as government to come up with or to implement all these activities. A case in point, National Council of Sports has a budget line of about 47 billion. The Department of Physical Education and Sports and the Ministry of Education has a budget of about 18 billion. So that gives you in the sports subsector an estimate of almost about 70 billion. Which, in my opinion, is just a tip in the iceberg. That's not enough to help us move this sports sector to a level we need it to be. So mine is one, is to still call upon the private sector that let's put in a lot of emphasis in supporting infrastructure development in the country. But where have we gone ahead? We need well-planned, well-guided infrastructure planning for now. The other one, of course, which I also want, there's some little money which we send to districts for sports activities, and we normally send about 40 million shillings per district and municipalities for sports activities. Much of this money, most times, has not been put into proper use. And this is the reason I'm going to meet the district sports officers all over the country to begin to discuss with them, give them our planning, and also I call upon all local leaders across the country to join us as the Minister of Education and Sport in this plan to make the sports subsector be one like it is in the world. It's the most pay-high sector. Sportsmen and women are the highly paid in the world. Number two, it's becoming a source of employment because came back just from in Thailand for the World Mountain Run Championship. Uganda, of course, got 3 gold medals, actually 4 gold medals. Then we got 2 silver medals, then also got 3 bronze medals. And Uganda made the best in the whole world. What brings this? 2 things are in common. Our children, that was a competition for cash. Are you getting me? At least the best, if you won a gold medal, you had $5,000. If you had a silver, you have $4,000. If you compute that to Uganda shilling, $5,000 is almost about 20-something million. That's why we say, if we invested more, there are very many international activities which our children would be able to get more money. And in this specific subject matter, I I want to say that government catered for air tickets for these athletes to go and compete and took care of them for their accommodation, their feeding while they were in Thailand. The She Cranes have returned from New Zealand, where, in my opinion, they did a wonderful job, and we must congratulate them for that work. Beating, of course, the world champion is one which we can't take for granted. We must appreciate them. But also they beat Jamaica, which it was ranked number 4 in the whole world in netball. So, but that is not enough, because my planning as a ministry, we are now planning for the World Cup, which we must be able to begin to allocate enough resources for our children, for our daughters, to go and prepare very well for the World Cup, which in our opinion, we really want to cause an upset. As of now, we are about number 5 in the world. Ours is still to go to become to 1 or 2 or 3 in the world. No, I want to correct you. When I talk about sports, when I talk about stadiums, all facilities are inside there. We are carrying out the renovation of Nambole now. That Nambole is going to be used for both rugby and football, but Nambole is going to be used for basketball. There are basketball courts there. There's athletic track there. We are planning to put up an international swimming pool inside that stadium. It's about the planning. That's when I talk about infrastructure. It's not about focusing on football. It's entirely holistic sports development in the country. This is what we call priority sport. Priority sports, we talk about boxing, we talk about football, we talk about netball, we talk about rugby, we talk about athletics. Are you getting me? Talk about volleyball, swimming, basketball. Those are our priority sports in the country. Again, actually, we are looking at 11 sports. Are you getting me? But we're also coming in now, handball and so on. Those are all areas where we must concentrate. So the facilities we are planning have all the provisions of our first priority sport. These are the games which are competed in the Commonwealth. These are the games which are competed in Olympics games. These are the games which are competed in the African games, all African games. That's our priority sport. And that is an area also where we have comparative advantage over others. Are you getting me? So, when I talk about infrastructure, it's not only football. Football, true, is the most popular sport in the world. But, as of now, we must also plan for other games. But within the facility, when you build a stadium, it should not be one stadium for football. It should be multi-discipline.
Government involvement in the sports sector, as we see the possible potential, a very great potential in terms of transforming the country's gross domestic product and also providing employment opportunities, and we're looking at income per capita improving in this very particular aspect. All right, now away from that, let's head straight to the ICT. We are looking at how far with the Vision 2040 as IT being one of the pillars of that particular vision. Now remember, this vision has quite lots of pillars to make it come to pass, and some of the key pillars into this Vision 2040, we look at tourism, there is oil and gas sector, there is infrastructure development, human capital development, agriculture at the same time, and also information communication technology. But then we are trying to assess how far with ICT as part of the pillar of the Vision 2040. Let's review this.
2040, I can say we are moving at a snail's speed, and I'm worried the remaining 18 years are not going to find us on the road to realizing the dreams of Vision 2040 as far as ICT is concerned. Look at the countries in the region. Kenya, they are ahead. Rwanda, it's a poor country for all intents and purposes. They are far ahead. Tanzania is a little bit ahead of us. So in the region, we are limping. Actually, in the region, we are better than just 2 countries, Burundi and South Sudan. You cannot compare yourselves to those countries that have been ravaged by wars. At least we've had some semblance of peace in Uganda that can help us really put in practice what we've been preaching. So government is not walking the talk in regards to making sure that they spread wide the network, they improve the ICT sector. These are just issues that are being talked about by the president, good papers, good paperworks in workshops and everything. But check out the rural areas. They are not connected on the national grid. Of course, it's not going to happen. Vision 2040, we shall reach there when we are a little bit maybe better than Tanzania, but we should not rate ourselves to those levels. We should be able to move faster, because you cannot compare yourselves to countries just within the region. We are talking about a global village. It's not just about the little monies, as they say, to the ICT sector. Of course, I appreciate we could and we can and we should be able to give them much more money because this is the backbone of the national development, just like agriculture. We need to set our priorities right. Even when they get this so-called little money they get, are they putting this money to good use? That question should be answered. And to me, as a legislator that sits on the National ICT Committee of Parliament, I say they're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing. One, they have a lot of staff that they pay a lot of money. They have a lot of departments and commissions within those ministries of ICT, NITAU. Some of these people working there are not fit to the job. Some of them are just sleeping on job. We would rather have few people working in these departments and better the resources to be put to the public. Yes.
And that's regarding, of course, how far regarding the developments in information and communication technology, it being one of the key pillars to the Vision 2040. All right, now, before we get into some other aspects here, we're going to review something regarding security and economic growth, as we see security being a major pillar, not even a major pillar, but one of the major pillars in terms of influencing and supporting business growth and development. Let's review this real quick. We shall be returning with some few analysis related to that.
When looking at other parameters like the economic growth, for example, when you look at what stability and peace has resulted into, you would see that the economic growth is nearing now 5.5%. Despite the disruption of COVID-19 and other bad things that have been happening. So despite all of those, really we can see that the growth is going up. So there is stability in this country, which is really resulting into that kind of situation where the economic growth is going up, despite those for example, COVID, I think, disrupted European countries. And when you look at their trends, you see that they are not moving on well. 2%, 3% economic growth in some of these countries is too high. But 5.5%, I think, is not a bad scenario. Now, I want to advise fellow countrymen that peace per se is not enough. It's just an environment. Government is providing a conducive environment for people to really invest. Because there is peace here, other people have invested, local people have invested, foreigners have invested here. But what should the local person do? We have programs like PDM, Parish Development Model. We have these other funds that have gone down there, very huge funds, Nemioga, very huge, billions, hundreds of billions. To me, I would advise that people should think about enterprises that target those foreign markets. The European market is open. I hear the Uganda is given unlimited market in Europe. Unlimited. You can take as much as you can. China has opened its doors for some things, fish, beef, coffee, maize, cassava, soybeans, all of these. Then we have the regional markets, the Congo market, the South Sudan market, and all these other markets. I think people should learn to put their resources together to be able to target those foreign markets. It's very important. We have enough here, yes, and I can see that there will be a bumper harvest for maize, but Kenya doesn't have enough maize. So what we should prepare now is how to handle the maize in the right way. We must have standards, must maintain standards of our products. so that we have high quality products for those markets. That's all.
Security and business. One place, of course, they interdepend on each other to ensure that we have a stable business environment. There need to be a stable security to be put in place, and that will inspire, of course, the various parts into the trade to trade with peace, and of course, that will enable profitability at the end of the day. All right, away from that, it's exactly 52 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. But before we reach to the top of the hour, let's review something regarding the Auditor General's report, as the National Development Plan's budget compliancy has been dropping from the year 2019 when it was at 60%, that is as of today. It is at 54% according to the information provided to legislators by the Office of the Auditor General. Let's have this report.
The Auditor General's office stressed that budget compliance has been declining since the years 2018-2019 and that this is due to poor planning by Ministry of Finance and the fact that money approved is not used appropriately, when testifying before the Parliamentary Committee of Finance to present their report on budget compliance with National Development Plan. The legislators have expressed concerns over such occurrences in the Ministry of Finance, which have led to such irregularities.
We also noted that with some of the revenue that is cut, which is cut and then allocated as supplementary, that the ministry has not gone back to the agencies to agree with them new performance management plans. For example, if you've been given money, maybe to train, just as an example, you've been given 10 million to train 100 children or 100, or whatever, or to feed. They just cut it. They don't tell you who shouldn't be fed. So they just cut it, and you expect it to manage within the budget that you have. That has caused the problems in service delivery.
The MPs have also demanded that Ministry of Finance should start declaring unspent balances of each financial year to Parliament, since it has also attributed to poor budget performance.
We looked at the issue of unspent balances. Normally, at the end of the financial year, there are monies that are allocated to the different agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies, which are unspent. But when it is unspent, they don't, the Minister of Finance sweeps it back to the consolidated fund. But they don't tell Parliament that this is the amount of money which came from unspent balances, which were swept back to the consolidated fund. We are going to make a strong recommendation on that all monies that are swept back into the consolidated fund, which was not spent in the previous year, should be declared to Parliament for appropriation.
According to the committee members, it is very unfortunate that Ministry of Finance does not plan together with the Office of the Auditor General to streamline all the irregularities that may come about during the auditing process.
We expected from the MDS, lumped on them by the Ministry of Finance without interacting, so that they come up with a very scientific way that revenue is determined. Arising from that, therefore, you'll find that there are revenue shortfalls because the planning process was compromised and wasn't done well.
For the years 2020-2021, the budget's alignment to National Development Plan 3 has decreased to 54%, with 85% of some programs still being in development, despite funding being appropriated.
That's the Auditor General's report in regards to that, as we see a dropping. That's from the year 2019 when it was at 60% and today at, of course, 54%. So that's a decline of about 4%, 6% actually, from 60 to 54%. All right, it's exactly 56 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. Let's get into a short commercial break and we shall be returning with more business insights. Stick around. Good morning.